Hello guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to install the latest version of macOS, which is macOS Sonoma version 14.1 on your Windows PC. Now in this video we're going to be building a Hackintosh, and we can be able to do a boot with either our Windows 10 or Windows 11 and macOS Sonoma, and we're going to be using Opencore for this. I'm going to guide you through each and every step, so make sure you watch the video without skipping any part. First thing we have to do is check the requirements for macOS Sonoma, and then we can begin downloading the required files. First, we need balenaEtcher, which we are going to use to create a bootable disk. Second, we need MiniTool Partition. Third, we need Gen SMBIOS, which we are going to use to generate Unix serial for our macOS. Fourth, we need proprietary. We also need Explorer++. We need macOS Sonoma Image File. We need our Opencore EFI configuration file, and we also need Opencore Configurator. And then we need at least 32 GB of flash drive, which we are going to use to run the installation. Now the links to each and every one of these files I mentioned will be provided in the video description. However, I'm going to show you how to download each and every one of these files. Now the first thing we have to do is check our CPU and the code name associated to it. Now hold Ctrl+Shift+Escape key to open Task Manager, and then we go to Performance, and then right here you can see your CPU name right here. In this case, I'm using an Intel Core i5 4570 CPU, which is a 4th generation CPU. Starting with number 4, the code name is Haswell. You can see it on the screen. So make sure to confirm the CPU you're using and the code name associated with it, because when we are about to download the Opencore configuration file, we need to download the file for our exact CPU using the code name. Now after noting this down, we can close this and then open our browser. First, we have to search for balenaEtcher. Click on it, and then click on Download Etcher. You're going to download Etcher Portable for our Windows. So let's click on Download, and it should start downloading. Next, we're going to download MiniTool Partition Wizard. Click on it. Download now, and it should start downloading. Next, we're going to download Gen SMBIOS. Click on the link that heads to GitHub. Now remember, like I said earlier, the links to each and every one of these files will be provided in the video description. So you just have to click on it and it will take you directly to the download page. Now click on Code and then click on Download Zip, and it should start downloading. Next, we also have to download proprietary. So let's search for proprietary. Click on the first link to GitHub. Click on Code and then download zip. Next, we also have to download Explorer++. Search for Explorer++. Click on it and then click on download 64 bits. Now downloading. Next, we have to download macOS Sonoma installer file, which we're going to use for the installation. And we are getting this from Olarilla. The link to this page will be provided in the video description so you can download. The latest version is currently macOS Sonoma 14.1, but you can also go with version 14 if you want. So we're going to download with the media file link. Remember, this link is in the video description. The file size is about 14.9 GB, so I would recommend you use an internet download manager if your network is not that stable. I already have this downloaded, so I'm just gonna ignore it, but make sure you download. And lastly, we also have to download our EFI configuration file. Like I mentioned earlier, you have to check your CPU code name to know the right file to download. Now we're going to click on EFI folder up here. The link is also in the video description, and then we can scroll down. And then you can see EFI for desktop computer, and if you come down here you can see for laptop, depending on what platform you're on, either a desktop or a laptop. Now in this case I'm using a desktop which is running Haswell like we checked earlier. So confirm yours and download the EFI based on your CPU code name, and we have that downloaded. One last thing is to download Opencore Configurator, which we are going to use after the installation. So I'm going to head to eTech box. The link is also provided in the video description. Let's download. and we are ready for the installation. After downloading everything, we can close our browser and then open our download folder. And here we go. This is Opencore Configurator. This is our EFI folder. This is balenaEtcher. This is Explorer++. This is Property. This is Gen SMBIOS. This is MiniTool Partition Wizard, and this is macOS Sonoma Image File. The first thing we have to do is install balenaEtcher and then use it to create a bootable macOS disk. So let's run it. And here we go. So let's connect our flash drive. This is our flash drive showing right here, which is 32 gigabytes. So now we're going to click on Flash from File and then locate our download folder and then select our macOS Sonoma installer file we downloaded. Open, and then we click on Flash. Now this is going to erase this disk and then copy the required files to run macOS Sonoma to the flash drive, and then we can begin the installation. This should take about 30 minutes, but you just have to wait. Now while this is running, we can work on other things. So let's head back to our download folder. Next, we have to extract Property, Gen SMBIOS, and our EFI configuration file. So let's extract. So we now have the three extracted. We can delete the zip file since we no longer need them. Let's delete. Okay, so now open our EFI folder and you should see another folder inside called EFI. Open it and then you can see our boot and configuration files right here. Now we need each and every one of these files to run macOS. So let's head back and then cut the EFI folder from here and then paste it in our download. Now we can delete this main folder right here. Now the next thing we want to do is generate unique serial for macOS. So our macOS has a unique serial number instead of using the generic serial every other person is using. So first let's open Property, and then run Property Windows batch file right here. Okay, you should open up something like this. Now let's head back to our download folder and then open our EFI folder, go to OC, and you should find a file called config.plist. This is our configuration file for Opencore, which we're going to use for the installation. So let's just keep that one side. Click on File right here and then Open. And then we have to select that configuration.plist file. So head to your download folder and locate the configuration file and then click on Open. Now if we navigate down to platform information right here, platform info, and then scroll down, you should see the platform serial number right here, which is a generic serial number someone else is probably using since we downloaded this EFI already made. So let's copy this serial number and then confirm if it is unique or someone else is using it. So let's head to our browser and then head to check coverage.apple.com. Now let's paste in the serial number there and then verify, submit. And you can see this serial number is already being used on an iMac Pro 2017. So you wouldn't want to use the same serial number someone else is using on their computer. You have to use a serial number that is unique for your own machine only. So let's head back and then we can close Property since we've confirmed that. Head back to our download folder. Now this is where Gen SMBIOS comes in. This is what we're going to use to generate a unique serial for our macOS. So let's open Gen SMBIOS, open, and then run Gen SMBIOS Windows batch file right here. First, we have to install and update Mac serial by entering 1 and then hit enter. Make sure you have an internet connection. Okay, and you should see the Mac serial version up here. Now the next thing we have to do is select our configuration file by entering 2 and then hit enter. Right now we're going to head to our EFI folder and then open OC drag config.plist file and then drop it there. It is going to drop the path. Okay, now hit enter and you can see our configuration plist file has been selected right here. Now enter 3 to generate SMBIOS. Now this is where we select the SMBIOS to generate. Now we have to use an SMBIOS that matches with a machine that can run macOS Sonoma. In this case, we're going to use iMac Pro 1,1, which should be okay to run macOS Sonoma. And then hit enter. And you can see unique serial has been generated. Now we can copy the serial and then head back to check coverage, paste the serial, confirm. Now if this is a unique serial, then you should get an error just like this. Please enter a valid serial number, and that is because this serial is not connected to any machine at the moment. After the installation, you can head back to search with this and you should see that this serial is connected to your machine, which is unique just to your own machine. Now we can close this. Since we are done, enter Q and then hit enter. Okay, so we are now done with Gen SMBIOS and proper tree, which we can delete. We can also delete our zip EFI folder right here. We are still waiting for balenaEtcher to finish flashing so we can continue with the rest of the process. And we are finally done. Now we can close balenaEtcher and then open our download folder. Okay, so we can delete balenaEtcher. Now let's run MiniTool Partition Wizard. Double click on it. Run. Let's install. Continue installing free edition. Next. Opt out of this. And it should start installing. Now let's launch. Okay, so if you look down, you can see disk 1, which is our hard drive, and disk 2 is a removable drive where we are running the macOS Sonoma installation from. And right there you should see a partition called EFI, which is the EFI partition of our flash drive. Now let's right click on that partition and then click on change letter. Let's assign another letter to it. I'm just going to call it X. Okay, and then click on apply. Yes. Now we can close MiniTool Partition Wizard and then head back to our download folder. Now this is where we need Explorer++. I think I mistakenly deleted it, so let me just restore it from my recycle bin. Explorer++. Okay, so this is Explorer++. Let's extract. Okay, now let's open Explorer++ and then right click on this application called Explorer++ and then run as administrator. And you should see the EFI partition we assigned just now. So just open the EFI drive and then delete everything inside. So let's delete. And then head back to our download folder from here and then locate our EFI, which we've already worked on. Copy and then head back to our EFI X drive, which is in this PC. EFI, then the drive letter, open it and then let's paste the new EFI right there, and we are good. Now we can close this. Now after the installation, we are going to need Opencore Configurator and our EFI again. Now let's confirm where we want to install macOS Sonoma. So let's head to our search bar and then search for Partition and then click on create and format hard disk partitions. So here you can see the list of available drives on your PC. From here we can see disk 0, which is my drive running Windows, and disk 1 is a removable flash drive which has macOS Sonoma installation file right inside. So we have to partition our drive so we can run both Windows and macOS. And to do that, let's select our main drive, which is our C drive right here with 232 gig. right click and then click on shrink volume. Now set the amount of space you want to shrink. In this case, I'm going to shrink about 90,000 megabytes, which should be close to 90 gig, I think, and then click on shrink. Now, if you have another empty drive where you want to install macOS, then that should be even better for you. But in this case, I have just one drive right here, which is where I'm going to install macOS Sonoma. So we're going to boot either Windows or macOS whenever we start our PC. Now we're going to right click on it and then click on new simple volume. Next. Assign any letter to it. I'm just going to call it K. Next. Let's name this macOS so we can easily recognize it. Okay, so you can see macOS with drive letter K with about 88.7 gigabytes. Now this is where we're going to be running the installation. One last thing though, you can see an unallocated 13 gigabyte free space right here in our removable disk. And remember I mentioned earlier that we're going to need our EFI and Opencore Configurator after the installation. So it would be better if we just right click and then create a new simple volume with it. Next, assign any letter at all. Next. The file system we're going to use is exFAT, but right here you can't see it, so just use NTFS. Next, finish. Okay, so you can see 13.8 gigabyte right here. Let's head to our file manager, this PC, and then you can see the 13.8 gigabyte. Let's format this. Format and then set the file system to exFAT. Start. Okay, so we can close this, and then this management, you can see this is exFAT. So we formatted it to exFAT so we can access it on both Windows and macOS. Now we can head back to our download folder and then copy our EFI and our Opencore Configurator. Copy and then paste it in the new volume. Okay. So after the installation, we can make use of it without having to download it again. Now we can restart our PC and then start the installation. Hold F9 or F12 to boot into your BIOS. This may be different depending on the PC you're using. Now let's go to BIOS setup. First, we have to go to the boot sequence and then make sure you set the boot mode to UEFI. Next, we go to our system configuration and then set the SATA operation to AHCI instead of RAID. If you're using RAID, you may not be able to install. Next, disable secure boot under security settings. Make sure secure boot is disabled, and then you can apply changes and then exit. And it should restart. Now let's boot back into the boot menu again. Now we have to select our flash drive down there and then reset NVRAM so it can arrange the boot order and then set Opencore to be first. And you should see Opencore as the first option there due to us resetting NVRAM. Now we can hit enter and then select install macOS Sonoma. Now this should take some time. It will show a bunch of lines and it may take about 2 or 3 minutes, but you just have to wait. Now set a language for the installation and continue. First, we have to go to disk utility to erase the disk before we install macOS Sonoma. Continue. Okay, so if you look right there, you can see macOS partition we allocated earlier, and you can see the size about 95 gigabytes. This is a Windows partition, and you can see the label right there, Windows. And down here, this is new volume we also partitioned in a flash drive, and this is the main macOS installer file. Now we have to erase our macOS partition by clicking on erase and then set the format to APFS and then erase. Now click on done Now we can close this window and then click on install macOS Sonoma. Continue. Continue again. Now agree to the terms and then continue. Now we have to select our macOS drive we erased earlier and then continue. Now this should take about an hour to install. It may restart severally while it is installing, but you just have to wait patiently. After 1 hour or thereabout, you should have macOS Sonoma ready to set up. So let's wait. And we are good to go. Now set your country or region, which we are going to be using on our macOS Sonoma. Continue. Continue. Now everything else basically depends on you. You can set based on your personal preference. So I'm just going to run through this process. And we are done. The entire process took about 2 hours from downloading the required files to the entire installation, which isn't that bad. And we can check about this Mac to see our serial number there and the version of macOS we are running, which is macOS Sonoma 14.1. Now if you remember correctly, the EFI folder right now is on our flash drive instead of our main drive. So we need to copy the EFI folder to our main drive so we can remove the flash drive and then boot into macOS. So you can see our removable disk on our screen, which we copied earlier. You can see EFI and Opencore Configurator right there. So we're going to copy it to our desktop. Now let's double click on Opencore Configurator to extract it. And there it is. We can trash that. Now let's double click on Opencore Configurator to run. Okay. Now minimize this window right here. And then you can look at the top right. You should see Opencore Configurator sign right there. So click on it. And you should see the EFI on your flash drive and the EFI on your main drive. So let's mount the EFI partition on our main drive, which you can see the label right there, mount. It may ask for your password, just put the correct password. And it should mount the EFI partition. Now let's click on that again. Now we're going to click on Open Partition. And here we go. This is the EFI partition of our main drive, which contains Windows right now. But we want to be able to boot both Windows and Mac OS. Normally we are supposed to drag the EFI folder and then paste it there if we were installing on a fresh drive. But in this case I already have Windows there, so I want to run both. So I'm going to open it and then rename the EFI from our desktop, the EFI we were working with. And then I'm going to copy it right into the EFI partition so we can set it up in our BIOS to boot either Mac OS or Windows. And we're actually done. Now we can eject our EFI partition because you don't really have to be tampering with it. Now we can restart into our BIOS and then make few changes. Now let's boot into our boot menu again. And then go to BIOS setup. Now we can go to boot sequence. You can now disconnect your flash drive and then click on add boot option. Now select the file and then go to EFI, macOS, OC, and then select Opencore.EFI. Now we could call this macOS. Okay. And then we can move it up in the boot order. apply, and then exit. Now we can directly boot into our macOS. Log in with your password. And that is all basically. If you encountered any issue while trying to run the installation, then don't forget to use the comment section to share the error you had, and we will be glad to assist you with that. If this video was helpful, kindly hit the subscribe button and turn on your post notification. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.